Welcome everybody back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about basic mods, right? So mods for your keyboard. Now the interesting thing about the keyboard hobby in general is the fact that I find people tend to mod less the more expensive the keyboard is. And let me preface this a little bit. Now mods are generally there to improve or to cover up for something that, let's say, your current keyboard just doesn't do very well. Now, when you start getting to the more expensive, higher end versions of keyboards, you're going to find that a lot of things just are designed better, right? Like the cases are designed better, they're going to be put together better, the quality of materials is going to be higher, the stabilizer is going to be better, the PCB is going to be better, like the plate's going to be better, just everything works better together, and therefore the amount of mods that you need aren't really quite as required. That doesn't mean people don't do mods for high-end keyboards. People definitely do things like the force break mod or even modifying your stabilizers, but I've just noticed in general most mods are done for lower end budget to mid-tier keyboards. And so yeah, so today this is just going to be a real basic overview of some of the mods that you can do for your budget keyboard. Today we're going to be working with the Keychron V1. I think this is a very good keyboard to kind of mod and kind of really get you started for a few reasons, and one of them actually largely is because the keyboard itself is not that good, and I'll explain that. So the Keychron, you know, as always, they have the standard way you put it together. But the thing about the Keychron is it comes with an aluminum plate which is screwed onto the PCB, and then that entire assembly is tray mounted. So already with a tray mount, you're not going to get much flex. The typing experience is going to be very, very stiff, something very akin to your average keyboard like Razer mechanical keyboard, right? And then you have really low quality stabilizers and just a very hollow sound overall. Because of that, there's a lot of room for improvement. Right now, some could argue you probably just don't want to use it because it's just not going to be good. But I think this is a good one to kind of like really showcase what mods can do for your keyboard. So the first thing that we're really going to tackle, and this is honestly in my opinion the most important thing, are your stabilizers. I think stabilizers basically define, it really helps kind of define the tone that you get with the keyboard overall and the typing experience, because if you have a really rattly spacebar, the experience is just not quite as good. So first thing you want to do after you kind of like take off the case is really just test out the stabilizers, see if they're anywhere close to what you want. And these sound terrible, so let's give it a listen. And yeah, really rattly, just clacky, just terrible. I am using the JWick T1 tactiles again. I think these are very, very fantastic. I think they sound good, they perform very well. Again, very, very good lubed from the factory by JWick. So yeah, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take these stabilizers off, right? So just a ton of screws, get that plate off, get it disconnected from the tray, and we're going to take and the nice thing about the Keychron is that these are PCB mounted stabilizers, right? These are not plate mounted stabilizers. So this is cool because this kind of gives you an intro into PCB mounted stabilizers. I prefer PCB mounted stabilizers. I think they perform better than the tray mounted type. However, like we saw in the GMK67, you know, a good set of plate mounted stabilizers can perform very, very well. Pulling these apart, and the first thing I always recommend is basically make sure that you clean these very, very, very well. Now, I like to clean these by basically dumping these in a solution with soap and warm water, and then just swirling them around, and then using a spare brush to basically pick out all the old lube. Now, for whatever reason, the lube that Keychron uses is just very pasty and just not very good. So we're getting rid of all that. Now with Keychron stabilizers specifically, at least on the low end, their pro stabilizers are generally pretty good because I believe they use cherry stabilizers, but the ones that they use on the non-pro series definitely have some issues. What I kind of recommend here is the Holy mod. Now, what is the Holy mod? This is going to be the first mod that you're really going to be doing. This Holy mod basically takes a little strip, tucks it into the hole where your stabilizer wire sits into, and helps prevent movement and helps allow a more smooth wire performance, right? So a lot of people recommend band-aids, and that is also what I recommend. And the reason we recommend band-aids is because, especially the cloth type band-aids, they are very, very sticky. There's a really high adhesive thing going on there, which allows it to kind of stick inside. It just sticks on the stem of the stabilizer. And so the best way to do the Holy mod is you take your stem, so don't brush it with any lube yet. Take your stem and you're gonna make sure you cut a really, really thin piece of band-aid, really, really, really thin, right? It's gotta fit into the hole. Then you're gonna basically, using a pair of tweezers, kind of like lay it into the angled part, the sloped part of the stem. And then on the other side, you're gonna fold around and just tuck it into the small hole, right? So what this is gonna do, as I said before, is this is going to help reduce movement of the wire within that hole. It's gonna help reduce rattle, and it's gonna give you a cleaner, less rattly sound. You're gonna wanna do this for all of your stems, right? Just do it for all of your stems. Now, if you are lazy like me, or if you don't have good dexterity with your fingers like me, you can instead just replace the stabilizers. So the stabilizers I personally really like are the Owl Stabs by Owl Labs, and the V2 stabilizers are really nice because the little hole that you would normally do a Holy mod in, that's smaller on the Owl Stab. So it effectively works like a built-in Holy mod. So for me, I'm just going to use the Owl Stabs. That's what I normally use. That's what I use for all my keyboard builds. Here though, we're going to do the Holy mod. We're going to, and I'll show you guys the difference. So once that is done, then you want to properly lube your stabilizers. So for the housings, in the stem, we're going to be using Krytox 205 grade 0. You only need a really light layer. You don't need anything crazy. And then for the wires themselves, I personally like to use dielectric grease. The reason for this is dielectric grease, one, it doesn't conduct electricity, dielectric, but also two, it is a little bit thicker than Krytox 205 grade 0. And this also helps with the non-movement while providing lubrication. So I like the dielectric grease. You just dip the wire in, dip it out, you're good. Snap the stabilizers back together, throw them onto your board, and you're good. And at this point, you should be good. So the second mod that we're going to be talking about today is the tape mod. So this is a very easy mod to do. You basically just take painter's tape and you're going to put it across the back of your PCB. Now, a lot of people recommend doing either 2 to 3 layers of painter's tape. I only have the small, thin painter's tape. I didn't have the big thick ones, so try to get the big thick one if you can. You could buy this like $3 off of Amazon. It doesn't really cost anything. This is really good. This sort of acts like a sound modifier, very similar to PCB foam. Now a lot of budget basic keyboards don't come with PCB foam, and this kind of helps cover that shortcoming up a bit. Yeah, and basically this helps give you that thockier sound. Now, of course, if you don't want that and you want a more clacky sound, don't add this mod in. But this is good for those of you who want something a little bit more thocky, but you don't have, you know, a strip of PE foam, right? Or PCB foam. And yeah, this is a very easy one. If you do have a tray mounted PCB, make sure that you poke holes with an X-Acto knife or a screwdriver or something, just so you can get those screws back in, then just snap that into place. Now the last mod that we're going to be talking about that I didn't actually do on this board, because I actually think Keychron does this pretty well, is the case foam mod, right? So a lot of budget keyboards come with this really thin, terrible piece of case foam that doesn't really do anything. So I purchased this EV foam. You can get like a roll for like 20 bucks off of Amazon. I'll link everything in the description below. And you basically just cut this out to the size of your board and you lay it in there. The one that I got specifically actually has an adhesive side, so this can help with preventing things from moving around. So just stick that in there, and this again will help with a more thocky tone. So if you're into that thocky tone, all you need is a single layer. You don't need to stuff it full of foam. Thin but dense foam will help block out the higher frequencies of clack, and that'll help present a more thocky tone. So these are just 3 very, very basic mods. The stabilizer one I feel is the most important, which is why I went with it. Again, if you don't want to bother trying to mod your stabilizers, or if you just feel like you can't because you don't have the band-aids or you just don't have the dexterity, pick up some owl stabs. Trust me, you'll love them. I love them. They're my favorite stabilizer. I've used the Duroc V2s, I've used the Cherry stabilizers, I've used the owl stabs, I've used the Keychrons. I like the owl stabs the best. Let's listen to the keyboard after I've put all the mods in, and we'll see how it improves. And yeah, that's basically it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this really quick video of some of the basic mods that you can do to your keyboard, especially, you know, on the budget side. I hope this helps for anyone who is looking to jump into this hobby. I know it can be very daunting and can be very confusing, but yeah, hope this helps. Well, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll see you on the next one.